Now then, it's a bit breezy today, which is probably a good thing because of the dust. On that last video I showed you, that's when I was opening the kiln, I showed you this clay that Ian Helsby had processed. So let's tip it out. So as you can see, he's obviously soaked it and cleaned all the muck out of it and then dried it. So this is brilliant. Actually, apart from those big bits there, this going to go straight in water. Now, when you dry clay first before soaking it, when it's bone dry like this, it will soak up water and break up very quickly. So that is good enough really. And we can let that soak for a day or so. Put it in a bucket. And then whiz it up. And then filter it. Just to make sure. I mean, no doubt Ian's done a very good job, but I'm just going to do the process that I do. So here is a load of Tetford clay that's been drying, and obviously because it's dry it breaks up quite easily. And look, there's a bit of small bit of stone there. So again, this is why I don't want to grind this up. I want to break it up and then soak it and then filter it. The plaster mixer does quite a good job. So it makes a fine slurry, and you just need to add enough water. So I put it through a quite fine kitchen flour sieve, and I find that's good enough for this type of clay. No doubt other clays that might have coarse sand in it or something like that, you might have to use a different filter, or you might have to mix it all up and then let it settle, and all the bigger particles will drop to the bottom. Then you'll have to pour the top 3/4 off and discard, that's a bit of stone, discard the bottom bit. Hello, what's that doing in there? Oh well. So yeah, if you were trying to break this up when it's wet, you'd actually have to be cutting it up. So I'm going to do some more of that, and I want this bucket to be about 2/3 full of clay, and then I'll soak it out. But I've already got one that's been soaking for 3 or 4 days, so let's go and have a look at that. Okay, here's a bucket that has been soaking for a few days, and it's labelled. So this is the plaster mixer. Right, that's too thick. We need to add some more water. This is just from experience. I know that if you have it too thick, it won't go through the sieve. Right, what I'm going to do is take some of the top stuff off that might be a bit thinner, and then mix the bottom. So I still think, so I still think this might be a bit thick. Let's try it. And just shake it. Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah. See the bits of lumps and grit and what have you. You get it too thick and it bungs the sieve up, and then you're constantly having to wash it, whereas this seems to work. And some people will say, yeah, but you're wasting a lot of clay. Well, what you could do is you could put what you've taken, this stuff here, in another bucket with some more water and effectively wash it through again. Soak it for another 24 hours, stir it up again. So I'm going to do this all the way to the end, just to show you no, I'm not. You've got the idea. I'm actually going to put a bit more water in there and mix it up some more now, because I know the bottom will be thicker. Right, that'll be about right. This tray is virtually full now, and of course this tray is I'll get you one and see. It's one of these 20 or 25 litre oil drums, cut down the middle. Yeah, and then it's marked. Yeah, so I can then put a note in the book as what's in there. So this is tray number C, so I'm going to put that on the side, and what will happen is the solids will drop down, the water will come to the top, I can scoop the water off, and then over time it will keep evaporating, and then I'll stir it around, as you'll see in a minute, to the point where it is dry enough to transfer to the third stage. And it's typical, we always have an aeroplane, don't we? Maybe it's the third stage, maybe it's the fourth stage, but basically I turn it out into a piece of cotton cloth and then wrap it up, and then the moisture comes out through the cloth rather than it only being able to come out through the surface at this point. So here's a different tray, and as you can see it's starting to dry, but it'll be another few days yet before I can transfer it out. So the thing is, you've got to allow plenty of time. That's the bottom line for this. Allow plenty of time, don't rush. And of course now it's midsummer, I'm going to be doing plenty of this. And then once it's the right moisture content, and you can work it, put it in the plastic bag, heavy duty plastic bag, and it's ready there for winter. So I'm making a stock at the moment so that I don't have to try and process clay during the wetter parts of the year, which should be a good thing. Right. Okay, this is a few days later. Look, can you see how that stands up now? I might be able to leave it a little bit longer, but I think that's enough. So what we do now is we need to scrape that out into this cloth, this cotton. So I'm just going to scrape all that lot out. And I've got a spoon, a soup spoon, that is useful for this. I think it might be in this car. You can see, you're not going to get it all, but you're going to get a lot. And then of course, when I've got virtually everything out, I shall wash this tray out. And the next lot will get poured in there. That'll do. Bit of muck off the bottom of my boots, which is a bit of a bad move. There we go. Right, and then we wrap that up, and of course that moisture, you can see it's already soaking through that cloth, and then we need to label it. And this is Tetford, so we'll just put a label on that. And then we can leave that in somewhere where there's a breeze, yeah, and a bit of sun. And after 3 or 4 days, what you'll find is you open the cloth up and the clay will roll off the cloth in a solid lump. So that's the next stage. Right, a few days further on, and it's been thoroughly miserable and wet. So I've set up this little snail fan from a fan assisted oven, and as you can hear, it's very quiet and it takes not very much power, but it's just blowing over the cloth full of clay. So let's have a look. Now look at that, you see, it's still a bit too wet, but can you see what I mean by it rolls off the clay? There we go. But I don't want the outside to dry too fast. It's very much like when I was talking about drying timber. You've got to get the whole mass to dry rather than just the outside. So we'll carry on, but this fan is proving to be quite successful when it's not ideal conditions. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over like that, and I can just move this fan a bit. Yeah, great. Let's carry on. Right, that's a couple of days, and here we've got this on the bench. Let's have a look. How are we doing? What's going on here? I thought I was right. There we go. So it's dried off quite well. That fan just made a huge amount of difference, and of course it took hardly any watts to do that. See, that's it, that's pretty good. So we'll put that in a bag and let it mature again for a week, a few days, whatever, until I want to use it. But that's feeling just about right for throwing. Not bad. So here we go. Whenever you're doing all this lot, you've got to be quite careful not to introduce more bits of muck and what have you. Bits of grit or sawdust or anything like that. And of course the important bit here, not only to seal it, but to label it as well. So this is labelled up as Tetford. There we go. And what I'll do is I'll wash this sheet out in a bucket, hang it to dry, and then it'll be ready for the next lot. But this is what we're going to make. Some of these bowls. Just experimenting with the shape really. Another one there. That's more like a small soup bowl. Anyway, hopefully you found this interesting, mildly entertaining, passing on a bit of extra information. And if you're into wild clay, just give it a go. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? As long as you spread the whole process over quite a number of weeks, then there's no stress, is there? And then once you get going, then you just keep the process rolling on, and every couple of weeks you end up with a bag of clay and you seal it up and label it, or use it when you want. Catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.